What the hell was that?
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. I would just like to start this off by asking, what in the flying was that? I mean, I eventually understood the plot of the episode, but the first time I went into it, I was completely floored by how lost I was because I wasn't paying that close of attention. I didn't watch it live on Adult Swim or anything, but it was in the evening. I did have a beer in my hand, and I was just hoping to have a few laughs. Speaking of which, I didn't laugh once in the entire first episode of Rick and Morty the anime. And to be fair, that might have been my fault because I decided to watch it using the English dub because it's Rick and Morty and I thought that they would have the original cast. They did not. In fact, whoever these voice actors were, they were doing terrible impressions of the original characters. But don't worry, it wasn't just the main characters. Every single voice actor in this show sucked. I have had wet willies that were more pleasurable to my ears than the sounds from this show, at least with the English cast. My first viewing of Rick and Morty the anime was so bad that I immediately went back and rewatched it just to confirm how terrible it actually was. But luckily, this time I decided to switch over to the Japanese version. And by God did the sun rise in the east, because that was so much better. A Wild Cookies has appeared. Normally, I'm not the type of guy that says that you have to listen to the Japanese version and read the subtitles, but in this case, yes, you have to. It is the only possible way to enjoy the first episode of Rick and Morty the anime. Look, sometimes I do want to watch the dub just because I don't want to have to pay that much attention, especially to trash shows like Eminence in Shadow. That's a guilty pleasure of mine because it's so awful, but it's fun, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It makes fun of itself, it's pretty, all things that I can't say about Rick and Morty the anime.
I think you're better than me.
I am better than you.
Because I didn't really enjoy the animation all that much either. It felt like a low-budget Cowboy Bebop mixed with Rick and Morty, and it ended up being an assault to my eyes. Goodbye, Cookies. Thank you for scratching up my chest. That doesn't hurt at all. So my first experience was that it sounded bad, it looked bad, it wasn't funny, and I didn't understand what was happening because I wasn't trying to pay that much attention. I didn't think it was going to be that deep because this is Rick and Morty. Not to say that Rick and Morty doesn't have any unique themes or thought experiments, but they're always surrounded by jokes. I was actually expecting Rick and Morty writing in Rick and Morty the anime, but instead I got a bunch of B-movie level garbage. Everything about this felt so pretentious, like a Rick and Morty episode was made by one of the people that go, "Oh, you need to have a super high IQ in order to enjoy Rick and Morty." Not to say that the writers of Rick and Morty aren't a bit pretentious in the original form, but they were not this far gone with smelling their own farts at least.
Being smug is a good thing.
Oh my Christ!
Spoiler warning from here on out. You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. We start with a cold opening showing an alternate version of Summer fighting the Galactic Federation. We then switch to our version of Rick, who is using a body double to fool another version of the Galactic Federation. While Rick is off somewhere doing something with some sort of time travel device while Summer is watching him, Morty is playing a video game. He's completely immersed in his new digital reality. He's either reliving the same experience from alternate angles with different people, or there's different versions of him. It's not exactly clear, but guess what? I don't particularly care by the end. Everything happens so fast and you switch between the different realities and versions of Morty so quick that it's hard to anchor yourself. From what I understand, it seems like Morty is living multiple different lives. He goes from being a warrior to a beloved president to a giant loser. Each time he interacts with different versions of the same characters, and it all seems to surround this one mysterious girl named Elle. She seems to act as his love interest, and I couldn't bring myself to care at all because this is Rick and Morty and we know how it's going to end up. And just as Morty and Elle are about to reunite after living multiple lives without each other, Summer pulls Morty out of the game. How sad.
Oh no! Anyway, last week...
I gotta give them one thing. They got me to watch it 3 times because the first time was just atrocious with the English voice acting. During the second watch, I basically got everything that happened, but I went through a third time just to make sure that I wasn't losing my damn mind about how long, boring, and pretentious it all was without a single funny joke. What do I mean by pretentious? There was literally a line from Rick who said that it was his job to make sense of reality. To me and my wife, who I dragged into this because I wanted confirmation that I wasn't completely insane, it felt like the writers were telling us that they were smarter than us, and if we didn't understand it or like what they were doing, then we were just idiots. No, I understand what you're doing, it's just that your execution is ass. Rick and Morty literally already did this. It lasted 2 minutes. It was a lot better and funnier than this, and it made me think a hell of a lot more. And that's not even counting the follow-up Roy episode. And then there was a weird tear, sweat, Morty orb thing that they kept focusing on, which I don't know, represented Morty's life as it slipped through elderly President Morty's fingers onto the floor. All from the camera angles that you would expect from a pretentious B-level indie movie asshole. I don't know what they're going to do with this season. If it's just going to build off of this and show the different versions of Morty's life, or if it's just going to move on to something else. If this is standalone, this episode is complete garbage. If they're going to continue it, they have a lot of work to do to make me care about this storyline. And even if they pull off a miracle and tie it all together and show all the different versions and make me care, I will still stand by the fact that this was a terrible first episode. If this was my first introduction to Rick and Morty, I would think that it was a big pile of
Oh, that's real nice.
The writing and pacing were just god awful, and the characters did not feel like themselves at all. If you changed the character designs, I would not assume that this was Rick and Morty. But love of storytelling, they're trying to do something different with the franchise by making it unfunny and stupid. I've had my problems with Rick and Morty, especially seasons 4 and 5. Those were probably the weakest in the series for me. But it still felt like Rick and Morty, and there were still jokes that made me laugh. This felt completely off. I did not like it at all. They're trying to tell this supposedly super deep and intricate story, I think. But guess what? This is still Rick and Morty. It is the most black-pilled, nothing matters show that you have ever watched. I'm not even reaching here. This is what the show tells us all of the time, to Rick and Morty's detriment. But you can't go straight from that to this artsy, fartsy, pretentious BS. As a Rick and Morty episode, this was bad. As a standalone anime episode, this was bad. So it was just bad in general. And I'm just sitting here feeling like I'm losing my mind because how in the hell did this get cleared? This is the closest Rick and Morty has felt like jumping the shark to me. It started off as something completely unique, but it just kept going and going and going with this huge dip in the middle with seasons 4 and 5 and a little bit of improvement in seasons 6 and 7. With all the merchandise, the comic books, and this spin-off, it feels like Rick and Morty has become what it hated. Look at something that stands as its equal with Gravity Falls. It lasted 2 seasons, only had 1 bad episode, and is remembered fondly forever. Meanwhile, Rick and Morty is going down the inevitable path of becoming The Simpsons. Isn't that great?
Oh God, why can't I die? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone!
There's just going to be more and more, and I'm just going to be disappointed. And that's what Rick and Morty the anime is to me. It's disappointing. I mean, maybe it can pull it off in the end. I don't think so, but I have seen weirder things happen. But this is definitely the lowest the franchise has ever felt for me. For the first time ever, I do not want more. In fact, I do not want to know the conclusion of what's happening before my eyes. It could all get canceled right now and I would just shrug it off and keep moving because it doesn't matter as much to me anymore. And that's really sad. I really hope the next few episodes turn things around, because if not, I might just quit this anime. But what do you think? Did you actually like it? Do you think that it's more Rick and Morty than what I think? Did you absolutely hate it like me? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you disagree with all of this, that's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
Thank you all so much for watching.
You're still here?
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. You bye. Boom.
Do not despair.